Welcome to the Writer's Way podcast, where we explore the rich and imaginative worlds of authors, uncovering the stories behind their words and the journeys that shaped them. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by Elliott Mercer, author of A Doctor of Our Times. In his powerful debut, Mr. Mercer crafts a deeply introspective narrative, woven with threads of hardship, resilience, and hope. A doctor of our time's capacity to endure and rise, even in the face of profound adversity. Join our host, Mia Thompson, for an inspiring conversation with Elliott Mercer as we dive into the heart of her story and the soul behind the pages.
I have here the author of the book entitled A Doctor of Our Time, Dr. Elliott Mercer. So, Doctor, welcome to Writer's Way Solutions channel. Here, I'd like to ask the first question. What inspired you to write Doctor of Our Time?
50 years plus since graduating medical school and having the opportunity to first train with some terrific and develop a relationship with both physicians and patients as well over 40 plus years of practice. And I wanted to let people get a little better understanding of what it takes to become a physician, what it's like to practice, and what happens during one's practice of medicine, the good and bad, and how it affects how it affected me. I just wanted people to be able to experience that, hopefully positively in a book format.
Okay. That's truly inspiring of yours being in the medical field, for a couple of years. Wow. Now, how does the title reflect the novel's central theme?
The title affects the theme in that, a doctor of our times, in my case, as I mentioned, is a number of years, 40 to 50 years, and things happen. Things change in medicine, many things for the good, new inventions and procedures, CAT scans and MRIs and genetic engineering and all the like, which obviously have a positive effect on people. But also there are some things that have happened in the practice, particularly in the financial areas, where I think a lot of people in healthcare and physicians and the corporations that they become involved with lose sight of the true mission, that is caring for people. And sometimes it becomes a monetary decision or decisions, and that can negatively affect the practice of medicine. And that was very much part of what I tried to portray in my book.
Okay. Now, aside from that, in your, the main character in the story, which is Nolan, do you see Nolan's journey as reflective of real-world struggles faced by young doctors today?
Yes, absolutely. Nolan, the protagonist, is a composite of myself and a lot of other people that I've known. Obviously, it's not historical. This is more historical fiction, closer to fiction, but it does reflect the trials and tribulations of a young, idealistic physician who, for various reasons, has become apparent in the book, is pulled away and loses sight of the very reasons why, in this case, he went in the field in the first place, to care for people. Obviously, all physicians want to and expect to earn a living. They're perfectly entitled to do that. But sometimes it gets carried further away, and that's what happened with Nolan. In addition, Nolan obviously developed some social relationships like we all do, without going too much detail. A marriage which had some problems, and meeting some people that were probably negative influence on him, and led to some poor decision making on his part, which happens to a lot of us, physicians and non-physicians alike.
Yeah, and it's important that ethical boundaries, should be established early and upheld consistently, because regardless of external pressures, not just career achievements, true success includes personal and familial well-being. So, aside from that, I'd like to know, did you aim to highlight, like, yeah, I believe that you aim to highlight a social or an ethical issues in medicine. Now, how do you hope readers, especially those in medical field, will relate to the story?
Yes, the ethical issues in particular, I kind of hinted at that. How to combine the practice of medicine, making a living, but without sacrificing one's ideals, and particularly because you may or may not know that the old days of, an independent physician with his or her little office run completely by themselves is pretty much gone except for parts of rural America. Many physicians are involved now with corporations, healthcare corporations, and they become not necessarily employees, but they're very much subject to the whims of the corporation, which may tell them how much time they can spend with a patient, what their throughput has to be, what their return on the corporation's investment. That's probably, to me, the most negative ethical issue facing practice of medicine today.
Okay. Now, what was the most challenging part of writing A Doctor of Our Times, Dr. Elliott?
Easy answer: character development. I am not a professional writer. I didn't train in, I wish I'd taken some courses in school in writing, but I did not. So the challenge was to develop characters, Nolan, and then, a couple of other characters as well, to give the reader a feel for what the character really is without being too wordy. I was fortunate that I had an editor with the company that published my book that was very helpful in that regard. But again, the major challenge was in character development.
Okay. Now, aside from that, how long does it take you to finish this book?
It was a better part of a year working on and off.
So, did you somehow interview, did you do an interview doctors or draw from personal experiences to ensure authenticity?
I did not. I didn't really feel I needed to do that. I don't want to be too self-inflating here, but I think that I have a pretty good feel for what the practice is like. I've met a lot of people, mostly good, a few not so, over the years, and I think I was able to combine all of that with my own thoughts without having to really interview other people. So it really just came from my own background and learning.
Okay. Now, have you received, I believe that your book is available since year 2021. So have you received any particularly memorable feedback?
Well, I'd say you probably have access to the reviews like on Amazon and Couric and the like, and there have been some positive reviews. Obviously, the book was made available, and a lot of my friends, particularly in the medical field, have read the book and had a lot of positive things to say about it. Maybe it's partly because they're my friends, but the reviews have been favorably in the 4 to 5 out of 5 categories, which made me feel pretty good. But that's about as far as it's gone.
Okay. Now, for this one, Doctor, what do you hope readers take away from Nolan's story?
I think what I take away from Nolan's story is understanding and redemption. He, through some personal mistakes that he makes, which are told in the story, he realizes that he swayed away, that he detoured from his original mission in medicine and developed some bad relationships, both social relationships and financial. And he comes back. He returns towards the end without giving it away or going too much detail for those who haven't read the book. he realizes that there's more than just the financial gain, and that he needs to return to why he chose the medical field in the first place. And I think by the end of the book, he's at least on that track. Whether or not he'll be successful overall is not necessarily decided in the book. The reader can determine that themselves.
Yeah, I agree with you, Doctor. Actually, despite his downfall, Nolan has opportunities for redemption. And his journey shows that people can acknowledge their mistakes, seek forgiveness, and attempt to rebuild their lives. Well,
Right.
redemption is always possible, but it requires deep self-awareness and accountability.
I agree with you. I think, self-understanding, he has to do it. He pretty much does it on his own, right? He doesn't go to, to seek psychiatric help or anything like that. And I see a lot of that in myself, when I've had difficult times over the years. I mean, I have a wife and family that's helped me through things, but mostly it ends up to be almost self-awareness.
Yes, exactly. Because it's important to recognize and challenge corrupt systems rather than become complicit in them, right? So, yeah, if a doctor of our times were adopted into a movie or series, who would you, cast as Nolan?
That's my wife has asked me the same thing, and I'll profess my ignorance. I'm not a person who can rattle off names of current actors and actresses very well. I go back to the eras of people like Burt Lancaster and Marlon Brando, who are gone. But someone who's personable and who has that ability to project the characters that Nolan has. I personally feel that the story could be a very interesting movie, both for people who are in the medical field, but there's some romantic parts to the book which I think could be embellished with the right people and the right directorship. I would, if it was ever going to be made into a movie, and who knows if that ever be, I would really be interested in being involved in the medical direction, not the film direction, but the medical part of it, to make sure that it's authentic. I've seen too many movies with medicine involved that are not realistic, the Dr. Kildare type of situation. And I think it has to portray reality to be successful. And I think a strong character, both male and two females, could make it a very interesting story.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Doctor. Now, out of curiosity, do you have any upcoming projects in this work, so that your readers might be looking forward for yearbook?
Yeah, I'm actually about a third of the way through a book, and again, it goes back to character development. I have a book based on 4 individual people who, through a variety of circumstances, become involved with each other. And so it's about that type of thing. It's about persons who I think are both real and fictional, and how they relate and the difficulties. So that's what I'm currently working on. It's a work in project, and it's a work in action, and I'll probably take the better part of this year to complete it.
Okay. Now, what advice would you give to aspiring writers tackling complex, real-world topics?
I had the chance to read this ahead of time. I'm glad I did. I think the advice from someone who's relatively a novice as a writer is write what you know about and you understand.
Okay.
Don't try to take on a field. Don't write an adventure book about exploring the Arctic if you've never done it and never been through it, because I think the readers will pick that up. The educated readers will pick that up. You have to write what you know about, which is why I wrote this book about Nolan and medicine, because, good or bad, I understand the field. And that's the advice I would give. Write what you know.
Yeah. So how can readers stay connected with you and your work?
That's a good question. I saw that and I'm not really sure how to answer that. I don't do social media. As you know, I'm a senior. I didn't train in it like you young folks and like my children. I'm not into that. So, aside from reading the book and the reviews, and I would be happy to have, if there was a way to have people, if they're interested, contact me like you're doing, short of that. But I don't know, I did try to get into a book club, like a Barnes and Noble equivalent, to try to, entertain an audience, but it didn't really work out. It didn't happen. So I'm not much into the social media network, unfortunately.
Okay, so I will just, include this one, that your book is available to any online booksellers like Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, So, well, thank you so much. I believe I got all the, the questions for the interview. So, Dr. Mercer, thank you so much for participating in this recorded interview. Now, from from the answers that you have, well, there is really a need to spread the word of your book, especially in this generations right now. It is essential because it highlights the dangers of unchecked, ambition, ethical compromise, and self-deception. It is the issues that affect not just individuals but entire professions in societies. And as I hear, Nolan's journey serves as a cautionary tale for young professionals, showing how small a moral lapses can snowball into life-altering consequences. And his struggles also shed light on a systematic corruption in high-stake fields like medicine, law, and business, and making the book relevant beyond just healthcare. So by sharing these lessons, we can inspire people to prioritize integrity, recognize ethical pitfalls before it's too late, and then understand that while redemption is possible, it requires accountability and effort. In this book, it would serve as a reminder that true success isn't just about achievement, but about living with honesty, purpose, and responsibility. Okay?
Very well stated, Mia.
Well, thank you so much. It's I really hope that I will be able to really spread the word of your book. And again, this recorded interview, this will be forwarded to the professionals. And so with this one, Dr. Mercer, is that I'd like to let you know that it will be posted as well in podcast. Okay, it is a digital platform in which there are millions of subscribers. So it's a good way to hook those targeted audience for your book.
That's fine. Can you tell me, as I mentioned, I don't do too much in social media. Will you be able to follow up and tell me how I might be able to find it on a podcast or whatever, if that becomes available?
Exactly. Once it will be available in podcast, is that we will send you the link, okay, for you to listen the interview. Thank you so much. It's Sir Elliott Mercer.